Good morning. No rest for the weary. Uh, Today is Wednesday, June 18th. This is the Commissioners' weekly meeting. I'm Mark Blank and Commissioner Gilman, you ready to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I am too, and I just wanted to recognize an opportunity for public comment next week too, just to make sure people are aware of that. Proceeding 25A-0044EG, which is public services application with regard to a CPCN for the Eastern Mountain System, so affecting parts of Summit County, Grand Lake, areas like that, looking at alternatives to new gas infrastructure in the area. And we will be having a public comment hearing on that next week, next Wednesday. That'll be 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Summit County Community and Senior Center in Frisco. So just wanted to make sure people were aware of that opportunity coming up. And with that public service announcement, I also would vote to approve the consent agenda.
You getting any sleep, Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah.
Commissioner Plant?
I would also vote to approve the consent agenda.
As would I. Let's see, 24A-0327E, Public Service Company of Colorado, ECA, PCCA. Mr. Sarah, Ms. Friedman.
Good morning, Commissioners. This matter involves Public Service Company of Colorado's request to recover its 2023 fuel and energy costs through the electric commodity adjustment and the purchase capacity cost adjustment. An ALJ approved a non-unanimous settlement between Public Service and trial staff and rejected the UCA's claim that certain dispatch decisions were imprudent and also found the company's costs were prudently incurred. The Commission denied UCA's exceptions, and we're now addressing RRs filed by both UCA and Public Service. I'll first address UCA's burden shifting arguments, and then Ms. Friedman will address the reporting requirements question, which is discussed both by UCA and by Public Service. So with respect to the burden shifting and evidentiary arguments, UCA reiterates the same burden of proof arguments already raised and rejected at the exception stage. It claims that both the ALJ and now the Commission misapplied the burden shifting framework by failing to assess UCA's case before considering rebuttal evidence. UCA also criticizes the Commission for not citing case law in support of the proposition that the Commission evaluates evidence after the evidentiary hearing concludes and suggests that, quote, parties like UCA will be disincentivized to seek out information and raise challenges to the company's direct case if the intervener must then also overcome the company's rebuttal case and information only elucidated through the intervener's discovery. UCA's argument mischaracterizes both the Commission's process and the applicable legal standard. The burden of proof in Commission proceedings is assessed based on the entire record evidence after the close of the evidentiary hearing. The Commission is not required to evaluate evidence at the moment it is pre-filed, and nothing in law or Commission practice requires a segmented analysis that halts before rebuttal testimony is considered. Moreover, the notion that rebuttal evidence somehow immunizes the company from scrutiny or that it can't be used to critique ideas presented in answer testimony misrepresents how the burden of production and persuasion interact. Substantively, UCA's contention that 90 coincidences between combustion turbine use and renewable curtailment raise a presumption of imprudence was already found unpersuasive, and it remains so. These events represent a tiny fraction of the over 1 million dispatch intervals in the record, and neither the ALJ nor the Commission found the coincidences inherently suspicious. In contrast, Public Service provided detailed explanations supported by rebuttal testimony of 8 high-value events and offered broader justifications for the remaining events, including reliability needs, system testing, transmission limitations, and renewable variability. Trial staff independently reviewed all 90 of these instances and found no cause for concern. UCA now attempts to avoid this evidentiary context by claiming its burden was already met and that rebuttal evidence should not have mattered. But that argument is fundamentally flawed. Rebuttal testimony is not only permissible, It's essential, and here it served to demonstrate the superficiality of UCA's spreadsheet analysis, which ignored operational realities. The ALJ and Commission reasonably concluded, based on the full record, that the company acted prudently. UCA's RRR raises no new facts or new arguments that would warrant reconsideration, and I recommend rejecting its arguments on these grounds.
Commissioner Goman.
Thanks, Mr. Sarah. I agree with your recommendation.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree as well.
As do I. I appreciate ECA raising these issues down below, and like you, I found the company's response satisfactory. So I also agree. Thank you, Mr. Sarah. Is there more on this one? Ms. Friedman?
I'm looking for Ms. Friedman. There we go.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ellie Friedman of your advisory staff. The Commission denied UCA's request on exceptions that the company be required to create a report explaining each instance when renewables are curtailed or Cabin Creek is being pumped at the same time CTs are running. The Commission concluded that UCA failed to provide support for its request and agreed with the ALJ that information had not been demonstrated but would add significant burden to system operators. In its RRR, UCA states, this decision point of the Commission's order appears to misconstrue UCA's original recommendation. In its SOP, UCA argued that the company only be required to report on the instances when the company ran CTs when it curtailed renewable energy or pumped Cabin Creek. UCA did not recommend the complaint each of these instances, rather only that they be identified so that these instances were readily known and could be potentially explored by parties or the Commission. And on this, UCA cites to page 27 of its SOP. However, looking at page 27 of its SOP, UCA writes, the report should identify each instance when its operators were dispatching CTs and/or Plains End and also curtailing renewable generation storage at either Cabin Creek or into batteries, and provide justification for its actions. These periodic reports should then be consolidated into an annual report at the end of the year to be filed with the annual ECA filing. So given this, UCA's request is confusing. UCA's request in its SOP was thoroughly considered by the ALJ and rejected because the potential information provided in these reports could not justify the additional burden on system. Commission likewise considered the requirement that the company provide justification of these events and upheld the ALJ. UCA's RRR filing does not provide support to reverse this decision and in fact seems to contradict its request in its SOP. If UCA's intent in filing RRR is to request the Commission require the company to provide a listing of these coincident instances, this is contained in the spreadsheet the company already provides. Although UCA contends it would not be overly burdensome to create this report, UCA does not explain why the Commission should direct the company to create an additional report from information the company is already providing. Furthermore, in cross-examination in this proceeding, UCA's witness, Chris Neal, confirmed that he was able to take the information provided and create the very list that UCA requests. So advisors recommend denying what UCA would like for reporting, but the ALJ and the Commission have considered and rejected the request that UCA made in its SOP, and UCA provides no additional information as to why the Commission should reverse this decision. If UCA is requesting a report listing the coincident instances, UCA's witness has shown that this information is available and the report is requesting can be created from what the company already provides.
Commissioner Goman?
I agree.
Commissioner Plant?
I also agree.
As do I. And
So to the public service RRR, public service seeks clarification of the Commission's directive that the company include a narrative in its next ECA PCCA recovery proceeding that explains for the top 10 instances by dollar amount why CTs were running while renewables were curtailed or Cabin Creek was pumping. Rather than providing this information based on dollar amounts, that the top 10 instances be determined by volume of potentially reducible CT generation or curtailment in megawatt hours. The company states that the potentially reducible CT generation volumes are likely of most interest to the Commission and interveners and are appropriate proxy for the instances determined by UCA for disallowance in this proceeding. The company also notes that this is consistent with the discussion that the Commissioners had during their deliberations. Public Service provides an explanation of the method proposes, which it states is similar to the manner in which UCA conducted its analysis for testimony in this proceeding. Public Service contends that ranking by volume could be converted to a dollar amount by multiplying the megawatt hours by the dollar value if interveners wish to make that calculation. The company also states that this proposed methodology will allow it to complete the report prior to the filing of its 2024 ECA PCCA prudent. Public Service request changes then to paragraph 17 and ordering paragraph 2 of decision C2507374, replacing the words dollar amount with volume of potentially reducible CT generation or curtailment pumping in megawatt hours. And we recommend that you modify decision accordingly.
That makes sense to me. Commissioner Goman?
Yeah, I mean, I think it generally makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out where there might be an instance where this really doesn't work. I mean, I'm thinking like gas price shock or something where you have, kind of a relatively short-lived instance that could actually be incredibly expensive for ratepayers. So I'm kind of like reluctantly think it might make sense, but I'm also very nervous we might miss something that could be relatively expensive in this type of analysis. I don't know, I'm torn. I'm like, can we make sure the most expensive event is also represented in there somehow? I'm just worried there are these real outliers in terms of gas price that is not of concern.
You want to just put some language in there that says, unless, if there's some emergency, if there's some unique circumstances like what happened with Storm Uri or the 2022 gas spikes, the commission would request that be analyzed as well. Something like that sentence. Would that address your concern, Commissioner?
Yeah, I think that works. I'm just worried that an anomaly in gas prices on the high side could cause this to not be a fulsome analysis like we want it to be. We want to understand first and foremost the impact to ratepayers, and that is a dollar determination. I understand that might not be the most practical way to do this, but I think what you've outlined is a practical way for kind of a backstop in case we see an issue like that that's very expensive, that we would have some recourse to get that analyzed as well.
So I think we'll go to Commissioner Plant in a second, but I think the language we're considering is unique or anomalous circumstances, referencing back to Uri or the 2022 fall-winter run-up. Commissioner Plant, anywhere you'd like to go?
Yeah, I appreciate that amendment, and I would support the recommendation with the amendment.
Ms. Friedman, does that give you what you need? I think it can be an ABC order denying the ECA RRR, granting the PSCO RRR with modification we just discussed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding number 24A-0547E, distribution system plan for public service company, setting a public comment hearing. Mr. Mendelson, Ms. Dundas.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mike Mendelson of your advisory team, joined by Ms. Dundas of Commission Counsel. The hearings for the Consolidated Distribution System Plan Aggregated Virtual Power Plant proceeding are scheduled to start on Monday, August 25th. However, a public comment hearing is yet to be scheduled. Advisors have checked Commission calendars and recommend the public comment hearing be held on Tuesday, August 26th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. I'd also like to point out that yesterday Public Service refiled its testimony from the AVPP proceeding in order to align the hearing exhibit enumeration in the consolidated proceeding. Answer testimony is due next Thursday, June 26th, and rebuttal is due July 30th. With that, I can answer any procedural questions or pause for your vote on the recommended date for the public comment hearing.
Commissioner Gilman.
Thanks for the update, Mr. Mendelson. I agree with scheduling the public comment hearing.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree as well.
As do I. And you can do that, but I think you said by minute entry, Mr. Mendelson, so thank you.
Okay, I think we have a draft order actually, but
All right.
that's fine. We'll figure that out. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Proceeding number 25AL-0141E, Dr. Bangiardina and Mr. Lemaire.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Nick Bongiardino with your commission staff. Black Hills filed 25AL-0141E to update its demand side management cost adjustment or DSMCA rider. This is a standard filing the company makes semi-annually in April and October to reflect the financial disincentive offset, performance incentive, and any over or under collection of prior year costs. The proposed change is an increase of 0.04% from the existing DSMCA rate of 2.89% to 2.93%. The majority of this increase is attributed to 1.2 million in over recovery and approximately 0.9 million reduction in the performance incentive. If permitted to go into effect on July 1, 2025, the tariff revisions will increase the annualized revenues by approximately $98,200. This amounts to an average increase of 4 cents for residential customers and 14 cents for commercial customers on their monthly bills. I can pause here for any questions and discussion, or I can provide a recommendation.
If you can give us a recommendation, that'd be great.
I recommend the commission take no action and allow this advice letter to go into effect by operation of law.
Commissioner Gilman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I also agree.
As do I. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Proceeding number 25D-0183G, Public Service Company, CLE, GES Planning Pilot Communities. Ms. Dundas, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
As you just stated, I'm Lindsay Dundas of your commission counsel, and Mr. Davis is here for any questions as well as the next related matter on the agenda. So in this proceeding on April 30th, Public Service and the Colorado Energy Office jointly filed the petition in this proceeding for approval of selected gas planning pilot communities pursuant to House Bill 1370. Previously in this proceeding, the commission noticed the petition and set a shortened intervention period, and by the same decision solicited initial and reply comments on the filing. Today, I plan on summarizing the petition and joint agreement, highlighting some themes of the comments received by the commission, and then I'll present a few matters for decision, including procedural, and then the substance of the petition. So beginning with the filing, Public Service and CEO made this filing, again pursuant to House Bill 24-1370, which established a process by which dual fuel utilities can partner with communities to mutually explore opportunities for neighborhood scale alternative energy projects or non-pipeline alternatives. The petition here seeks approval of 3 primary communities and 2 backup communities. In the petition, CEO and Public Service explained that CEO issued an RFI pursuant to the statute to identify local governments interested in becoming gas pilot communities. CEO and Public Service both then evaluated the responses to the RFI, asked for additional feedback, and then included that as attachment B to the petition. They received responses from Breckenridge, Fort Collins, Louisville, Denver, Winter Park, Boulder, Golden, and the town of Erie. House Bill 24-1370 required the company and the gas planning pilot communities, the company and CEO to rank and prioritize the statute requires the company and the potential pilot communities to rank and prioritize projects within their communities based on local government input and consideration of several factors. CEO and Public Service then individually evaluated and scored the responses, combined those scores, and created a list of the top 5 communities. They then adjusted the community rankings based on the inclusion of the projects in a future gas infrastructure plan filing. So in the petition, CEO and Public Service requested the commission approve Denver, Boulder, and Breckenridge as the recommended communities for the company to begin negotiations with, and then also Winter Park and Golden as what they're calling backup communities. Public Service and CEO agree that moving forward at this time with 3 pilot communities is appropriate due to the magnitude of gas-related proceedings pending or expected before the commission, and it states that it's concerned that committing to more than 3 communities at this time will lead the company spread too thinly to properly serve the communities and support potential projects. Concurrent with the petition, in accordance with House Bill 24-1370, CEO and Public Service submitted an associated draft agreement upon which the company and the approved communities will negotiate the terms of their partnership. This agreement includes terms related to dispute management and data sharing. In response to the Commission's last decision in this proceeding, the Commission received motions or notices of intervention from UCA, Denver, Boulder, and Breckenridge. UCA also requested a hearing in its notice of intervention. On or around May 14th, the Commission received comments from members of the public, as well as UCA, Denver, Winter Park, Colorado Communities for Climate Action, SWEEP, Golden, the Conservation Coalition, Boulder, and Breckenridge. Later in the month, we received comments from Public Service and CEO, UCA, Breckenridge, and Denver in reply. To highlight some themes from the comments received, most stakeholders commented in support of moving forward with all 5 communities and asked the Commission to decline to approve specific backup communities. Many highlighted that the inclusion of a project in a GIP is just one ranking criteria and should not eliminate otherwise good potential projects such as Winter Parks. Commenters generally supported moving forward with the maximum number of eligible communities, and communities used their comments to highlight the merits of their prospective potential projects and steps already taken to support development of those potential projects. Many commenters also urged the consideration should be given to both repair and replace projects as well as NPAs under HB 24-1370. Conversely, UCA recommends moving forward with only 3 communities at this time and highlights its concerns about unnecessary expenses and nascent technology in some of these projects. Initial commenters also suggested redline changes to the draft partnership agreement. Many commenters suggested similar changes here as well, including removing language that purports to give the company unilateral veto power in negotiations, expansion of data sharing and reporting requirements, and the like. In response comments, CEO and Public Service continue to endorse moving forward with 3 primary communities. UCA also responds to initial comments and it continues to highlight concerns over expenses that will be borne by all gas ratepayers. And the company provided a redline version of the draft partnership agreement that addresses some of the concerns raised in initial comments. It incorporates several changes proposed by commenters, including the addition of more collaborative language, removal of the company's sole and absolute discretion regarding cost consideration, and adding a 20-day business day timeframe for dispute resolution between the communities and the company. The company asserts it's inefficient and a poor process in this expedited proceeding for the Commission to attempt to resolve all contractual issues raised in the comments, and the company argues that expanding the data sharing requirements beyond what's already proposed in the draft is not required by House Bill 24-1370. So that's an overview of the initial comments and reply comments received, as well as the petition. And now I will go into decision points unless there's anything the commissioners would like to discuss now.
No, why don't you go into the decision points?
Thanks, Chair. So first for decision is to establish the parties to the proceeding. Denver, Boulder, and Breckenridge each move for intervention and state that good cause exists for, among other reasons, that their populations are served by Public Service and their status as potential gas planning pilot communities. I can provide a recommendation if you'd like.
That'd be great.
I'd recommend finding good cause to grant each of the permissive interventions and acknowledge UCA's intervention of right. This would mean that the parties to the proceeding are Denver, Boulder, Breckenridge, UCA, CEO, and Public Service. I'll pause here for a vote on the interventions.
Commissioner Goman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I. Second decision point, and I'll just combine this with my recommendation, is that I recommend denying UCA's request for a hearing in this proceeding. Pursuant to Section 2B of the statute, the Commission shall provide an opportunity for the public to submit written comments on the filing, which it did through decision number C-25-0356I, and it has received comments from numerous stakeholders. However, also pursuant to statute, the Commission must approve or modify the list of pilot communities no later than June 30th, 2025. So in light of this statutory deadline and fulsome public comments already received, I'd recommend declining to schedule a hearing to address the merits of the petition today.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I.
Third, and this is moving more to the substance of the petition, I'll set up for a vote whether to approve, deny, or modify the list of pilot communities set forth in the petition pursuant to Section 2.3 of the statute. As discussed earlier, CEO and Public Service seek approval of 3 primary communities and 2 backup communities. Comments received on the merits of this proposal were mixed. As stated before, UCA supports moving forward with 3. Other commenters, including Winter Park, Sweep, Golden, and the Conservation Coalition, support moving forward with all 5 communities for various reasons. So for decision is to set the list of communities, and I can provide a recommendation if you'd like.
That'd be great.
With regard to the substance of the petition, the statute requires the commission to approve or modify the list of proposed gas planning pilot communities, but requires that the commission shall not increase the number of proposed communities beyond 5. I recommend finding that all 5 proposed communities have met the criteria set forth in 43.3102 to be eligible gas planning pilot communities. I recommend that the commission decline to use the company and CEO's label of primary or backup communities, but also agree with the company that it can prioritize its resources it puts towards negotiation as it sees fit. Second, I recommend acknowledging the filing of the draft partnership agreement and updated red line filed in compliance with 40-3.31032A. I think that I recommend that the draft partnership agreement, as amended by the company's May 23rd red line, is a positive starting point for negotiation with the communities, but I recommend agreeing with the company that this proceeding is not well suited to litigate all proposed changes to the draft partnership agreement.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I.
Finally, and this will be a decision point for Mr. Davis's presentation as well, but I recommend that this decision close this proceeding and state that future steps pursuant to House Bill 24-1370 take place in other future proceedings. This decision should find that the petition satisfies CEO and Public Services obligations pursuant to Section 2A, and that the decision you'll issue here today satisfies the Commission's obligations pursuant to Section 2C. The approval of this petition only grants Public Service authority to move forward in negotiations, and the merits of the respective projects will be addressed by future Commission decisions.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I agree.
as do I.
Thanks, Commissioner. So just to summarize here, since I know I've done a lot of talking, this will be an ABC decision that grants the joint petition, approves Denver, Winter Park, Boulder, Breckenridge, and Golden as proposed pilot communities, which the company can prioritize its resources to negotiate with. And it also approves the interventions of Boulder, Breckenridge, Denver, denies UCA's request for a hearing, and acknowledges receipt of the draft partnership agreement and sets forward guidance for future filing of data with the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ron Davis of the Commission's advisory staff. As Ms. Dundas explained, House Bill 1370 establishes a process by which Public Service Company of Colorado will partner with certain gas planning pilot communities to explore opportunities for neighborhood-scale alternatives projects. She covered the very initial steps taken by Public Service, the Colorado Energy Office, and certain interested communities in the implementation of the statute. From that same statute, Public Service will next submit to the Commission by October 1st a list of each gas planning pilot community with which the company has established an agreement. The agreement will identify the roles and responsibilities between the parties, identify timeframes to furnish data or respond to requests, include any necessary waivers of Commission rules, include a process to address conflicts, and to indicate whether the community has demonstrated a specific interest in pursuing thermal energy networks or geothermal energy projects. And another part of the same statute further requires Public Service to provide the Commission with certain data and information to eventually inform the evaluation of potential neighborhood-scale alternative projects within those communities. For example, no later than June 1st of next year, Public Service and each community will jointly file for Commission approval of at least one initial neighborhood-scale alternatives project along with a list of projects that will continue to be evaluated. And then by June 1st of 2027, the company and the communities will jointly file for approval of one or more projects within the gas planning pilot communities, or report on why certain projects are not being pursued. So the data contemplated to be received by the Commission is described in detail in Section 40-3.31025A. It's a long list, and so I'm not going to go through all of those points this morning, but that's where they can be found in the statute. The decision I'm presenting to you this morning is whether to open a proceeding to receive that data and information that's addressed in House Bill 1370, as well as to receive the list of each gas planning pilot community with which the company has established the agreement. And I think this would also be a good repository for a copy of those final agreements. We've drafted and circulated an order in line with this recommendation for the Commission to open a miscellaneous repository proceeding.
Commissioner Goman,
Thanks, Mr. Davis. I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I. That can be an ABC decision unless you have something else, Mr. Davis.
ABC decision sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes our agenda. I think we have a sim at 11. Commissioner Gilman, anything else before we adjourn to 11?
Nothing additional. Thanks.
Commissioner Plant,
Nope. I'll see you guys soon.
see you at 11. Thanks.